And now, an executive fireside chat, how GM is driving a zero emissions future. Please welcome to the stage your moderator, CEO ESG News, Matt Bird, and Chief Sustainability Officer for GM, Kristen Siemen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Kristen, I have a few questions for you, but I think the most important one is, and for me, and is the most fascinating, is how did you make the leap from engineering to sustainability to Chief Sustainability Officer, GM?
Sure, so thank you. Thanks again for having us here today. So yeah, as we were talking backstage, I've been with GM for 30 years. I'm an electrical engineer by degree and spent most of my career, actually 27 years in product development, leading a number of our different engineering teams. And prior to this, I was running what we call our global energy strategy. So I was doing all of the certification and compliance, aerodynamic development, energy, and really focusing on GHG, but from a product standpoint. And I literally got a phone call. And the first CSO at GM was retiring, and I was asked to take on the position. My first response was, why me? I don't know anything about sustainability. In reality, it's really turned out to be a great advantage, because one of the things we really have to do to succeed and accomplish what we want to do from a sustainability standpoint is to weave it in all aspects of our business. And so what seemed like maybe an odd path has really turned out to be a great advantage. I've worked in the business for a long time. I understand what it takes to put something into production, what we need to do from you're going to get to hear later today, if you're still here, from one of our creative design leads, and what they need to do to select materials, all the way to what it takes to engineer and validate the product. So it's really been a great opportunity to now work across all aspects of the business.
You know, I think you answered part of my next question, but it's all right. So GM's gone through an energy transition in size of like speed and scope that's kind of rivaled by few. What do you contribute this to?
Yeah, and to that point, I think it really is first off, we have incredible support and buy-in from our leadership. Mary Barra actually set our vision around zero crashes, zero emission, zero congestion back in 2016. And everything we've been doing in the company is really geared towards how we accomplish that vision. So in 2021, we set some pretty big goals around being carbon neutral in our products and operations by 2040, our plan to eliminate tailpipe emissions from new light-duty U.S. vehicles by 2035, and really, led the industry on this transition to an all-electric future. And in order to accomplish that, we have to weave it into our business strategy. So it's not this sustainability organization that's sitting over on the side trying to, do our own projects. We've been doing things for a long, long time in sustainability or environmental, like energy efficiency projects or waste elimination. But this vision and this corporate strategy and buy-in from the leadership standpoint has really enabled us to weave it into all aspects of our business. So we work, as I said, closely with our creative design team, with our engineering team, and thinking about sustainability at the very first step of what we're doing. So what materials are we choosing? How do we source those materials in a more resilient way? And it's really been, again, a pleasure and really a great honor to be able to help lead that in the company.
Well, it's exciting to see what's coming out of GM. It's something new every month, and it's exciting to see the progress. How does GM work with stakeholders to inspire a culture of sustainability?
Yeah, so very similar to what we're doing internally. Look, GM's on this road, and we're driving innovation, job creation, American competitiveness towards this vision of an all-electric future. And in order to do that, we cannot act on our own. Yeah. And we certainly, even if you look at our carbon footprint, about 69, 70% of our carbon footprint is the customer usage of our vehicles. So the exciting products, you can see a number of them out here on the floor. The EV transition is happening and it's a reality. But that takes stakeholders across all aspects of the business. Our supply base is extremely important to what we need to accomplish, public-private sectors, you know, the communities where we live and work. And so as this transition happens and we try and accelerate it as fast as we possibly can, we need everyone to come along with us.
Okay, this leads us to our next one, which is the unique levers that GM has to help accelerate this transition.
I mean, probably the biggest lever we have is our product portfolio. You know, for a long time, EVs were either a very luxury product or something very small, you know, that didn't really meet the needs of all customers across all segments. And so if you look at what we've been doing to really offer EVs across the various product segments, it's really become an opportunity for customers to make that transition and not have to sacrifice what they're looking for in a vehicle. And, you know, that's everything from, you know, one of the ones I'm most excited about is the Chevy Equinox EV, which is a very affordable family-sized SUV. It's the largest segment in the US. So if that vehicle starts at about $35,000, you put the tax credit on top of that, you now have a family-sized SUV with over 300 miles of range that is less than $30,000. So it really opens the door to many more customers. And then you look further and you've got the Silverado EV pickup, which can come with up to 400 miles, over 400 miles of range, you know, and there's many families or customers that have one vehicle, and in many cases they use that vehicle for their livelihood. And so we need to ensure that this transition is available for everyone and that there's a product that meets the needs of the customer regardless of what they use their vehicle for.
All right, so here's a tough one. So what sort of challenges still keep you up at night as you're working through all this?
I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. I tend to be an ever, you know, focused optimist, but there's certainly challenges in the transition. You know, as was talked even on the panel right before us around the charging infrastructure is still something that needs to be accelerated. You know, we're doing everything we can from a General Motors perspective with some of the partnerships that we've announced. You know, we're part of Iona, which is an industry-wide, or I should say industry-wide, but about 7 automakers that have joined forces to implement a charging infrastructure across the US. We've adopted the North America Charging Standard, which opens up more opportunities for our customers. You're starting to see some of our stations with Pilot and Flying J along the major thoroughfares within the US. So now people can see charging capability along, you know, major road trips, et cetera. And it's really going to take seeing that in everyday life for customers to be comfortable that they can make this transition without sacrificing. You know, so charging infrastructure is one. Education is another. You know, many customers don't really understand or haven't experienced an EV. And so, I mean, once you drive one, you don't want to go back.
Yeah. So what are you doing to bring the cars to market right now?
I mean, again, having options across all aspects of the portfolio is critically important. Exposing them in areas like this. Our dealers are key in this transition to be able to help educate customers.
All right, so then looking forward, what are the things that you're looking forward to most as you go through the electric vehicle transition?
Yeah, I mean, the products, it's hard not to work for an auto company. I mean, especially for someone like me who's been there for 30 years. I mean, I tell this happy story that I literally grew up about 10 minutes from where I work, and I dreamed of working at GM. But to see this transition occur and see the products that are available, see people understand what this enables is super exciting. As an engineer, some of the things that I get most excited about are the small steps that we're making. You know, the little energy efficiency, I shouldn't call them little, because every small step that we can make, whether it be finding ways to handle a different waste stream in our processes or finding a way to make our plants more efficient, all of those then, you know, scale over time. I mentioned our carbon footprint, that the largest piece of it is the customer usage of our vehicles. The only way that that gets to zero is if we charge with green energy. So we're super proud of what we've accomplished from a renewable energy standpoint. We had made a goal back in 2016 to be eliminate or to be 100% renewable in our operations by 2050, and we actually were able to accelerate that a number of times. In fact, we announced last year that we've sourced all of the energy we need to be 100% renewable by 2025 in the US. So we overachieved by 25 years. We're well on our way to our global goal in that standpoint. And all of those things add up to, at the end of the day, really making a difference. And what we can do from, one of the largest OEMs to address this challenge.
And how has it been for you transitioning into the CSO role from where you came?
I mean, there's days I miss my engineering, right? I grew up in what I'll say is a black and white world, right? There's a little gray. But in reality, engineers are trained to solve problems. We're trained to look at data and look at information, make an analysis, make assessments, and make recommendations. And if you think about this, it's a big problem. And then the huge advantage is it's a common problem that we all have. It's across industries, it's public, it's private. And so there's huge opportunities for collaboration, which is very different in a product development setting, right? Where we're much more competitive. So in this space, I often say we need to collaborate on the solutions. We can keep competing on products.
I've asked this question, before in other environments, but for our audience, how important are public and private partnerships?
Huge. I mean, whether it be the things we need to do from an infrastructure standpoint, or what's available. Even there's a lot of talk about what it takes to permit and what it takes to make these transitions in our facilities. So very important. And then even from an engineering standpoint, regulations are important, and driving commonality, even from everything from reporting to standards around things like vehicle to infrastructure, as we look at bidirectional charging and what we need to do from a utility standpoint, it's absolutely critical that we work together on those.
And then, we're obviously here at Nest, and thank you, Nest, for giving us this platform. And upstairs yesterday, we had there was the UN Global Compact and the meeting, and how important are integrations in communities like that?
Great. I actually have the honors of sitting on the board of the UNGC USA chapter, and that organization is doing incredible things to drive the SDGs forward. Help. It's everything from education to sharing of information to even as simple as convening. A lot of this is how do we get in a room and have the conversation of how we share ideas and learn from each other.
Speaking of the SDGs, so are they pretty critical at evaluating the SDGs and the goals and into the decision-making process?
Absolutely. Look, we're focused at GM on what we can do today and how we accelerate that. There's a gluttony of opportunity for what we can do to move things forward. And so sometimes it's the small energy efficiency projects that we start with, and we're very focused on what we can do today to accelerate the transition to the future.
Yeah. How about the emerging growth tech that's emerging out of this? Do you find GM partnering with new emerging growth companies and
Absolutely. So we have an innovation arm. Again, as an engineer, innovation's at the core of what we do. There are engineers every day at GM that are working on everything from battery materials, battery technology, new materials. You're going to, again, have an opportunity to hear about one of our new materials from a creative standpoint later today. But innovation is in everything from product development to process development. One of the unique projects we've done with our GM Ventures team in the past few years is we invested in a company called Wind Catching Systems, which is actually developing instead of a single turbine for offshore wind, it's an array of turbines that can use much less real estate on the ocean floor, but provide much higher energy from that. And so, looking for ways to make this transition faster and more successful, and then sharing those across everyone.
We're running ahead of schedule.
Uh-oh.
So I know
We're
we
going to come up with more questions.
We got to come up with more questions. But I think what's at least from my perspective, I looking at the ESG professionals and the engineers and the sustainability professionals, if you give them some advice on the journey that you've gone through, that they're following in your footsteps, what would you?
Yeah, I mean, even working with my team, a lot of times in the sustainability space, I think we see this big mountain in front of us, and we see the mountain, we don't know how to get to the top, and so sometimes we're afraid to take the first step. We actually had a conversation yesterday that we need to, while we're thinking about taking that step and just moving forward, we need to, in a lot of cases too, think about how far we've already come. Yeah. And so we've made a lot of progress. Sure, there's a long way to go. I stress often it's better, not perfect. Everything we do today, kind of put points on the board today for looking for those opportunities. They all add up over time. So you can start by setting a goal, find a way to measure to that goal. And like I talked about our renewable energy and how quickly we were able to accelerate that, I think that happens a lot of times. Often you can learn that you can go much faster than you ever thought you could.
All right, we got a couple minutes left. So what's next for GM? What can we expect the remainder of 2024 looking into 2025?
Yeah, certainly the product lineup will continue to, we're on this path to, we're a leader in EVs today. Our portfolio is broader than any other OEM that's out there. The products are incredibly exciting. Again, if you haven't had an opportunity to take a look at them, please do so here. There's our Hummer EVs, the super truck are outside. You can take a ride in those.
I saw that as we walked in.
They are incredible. And I think, the exciting thing about them is it shows the capability, right? You don't have to sacrifice to go into an EV. We're talking about products that have over 300 miles of range, can have the capability of their internal combustion counterparts, and it's a better experience. So I'm excited to see people learn, be exposed into that opportunity. I'm excited from a corporate standpoint of the progress that we continue to make and the opportunities in front of us. It's there's a lot to be done, but there's a lot. We're well on our path.
And you'll be at COP29 coming up.
That's the plan.
Excellent. Well, we got a couple more minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, Kristen Sullivan, Chief Sustainability Officer of General Motors. Please give a round of applause.
Thanks.